In the heart of ancient Kyoto, where the air was perfumed with the sweet scent of sakura blossoms and the whispers of a million untold stories, there once lived a young girl named Yuko. Yuko was not your ordinary girl. She was a Maiko, an apprentice geisha, whose days were filled with the meticulous study of traditional arts, music, dance, and the art of conversation. Her world was one of silk kimonos, lacquered wooden floors, and the soft glow of paper lanterns that painted the night with a warm, inviting hue. Yet, she was about to embark on a journey that would challenge the very fabric of her existence. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery kiss upon the city's tiled rooftops, as Yuko stepped out of the okiya, her geisha house, into the cool embrace of the evening. She had just turned 17, and the weight of her future lay heavy upon her slender shoulders. The cobblestone streets, usually bustling with the chatter of locals and the clacking of geta, were eerily silent. The only sound that accompanied her was the distant plucking of a shamisen and the occasional rustle of a silk kimono as another geisha glided by, lost in her own world of elegance and duty. Yuko walked with purpose, her eyes fixed on the vermilion bridge that arched gracefully over the gurgling stream of the Shirakawa River. It was here, under the soft light of the moon, that she was to meet a young man named Hiroshi. A chance encounter at a tea ceremony had sparked a flame in her heart, a flame that now threatened to consume her. For a Maiko, romance was as fleeting as the cherry blossoms in spring, beautiful but forbidden. Yet, she could not resist the allure of the unspoken words that danced in Hiroshi's eyes. The bridge was deserted, save for a solitary figure at its apex. Yuko's heart skipped a beat as she recognized the outline of Hiroshi, his silhouette etched against the backdrop of the moonlit sky. He was a young nobleman, with a spirit as fiery as the autumn maples that painted Kyoto's landscape. His family's wealth and status meant that he could afford the luxuries of the geisha district, but it also meant that his heart was as untouchable as the stars above. As Yuko approached, the bridge creaked under the weight of their destined encounter. Hiroshi turned, the moonlight kissing his cheekbones and illuminating the smile that never failed to make her knees weak. They exchanged formal bows, their hearts racing faster than the river's current beneath them. "Yuko-san," he whispered, his voice a gentle caress in the stillness of the night. "You honor me with your presence." Yuko felt a warm blush creep up her neck. "Hiroshi-sama, it is my pleasure to see you again." Their conversation was stilted, a dance of propriety and passion. They spoke of the weather, the beauty of the city, and the art of tea, topics that danced around the edges of the storm brewing in their hearts. Yet, every now and then, their eyes would meet, and in those brief moments, the world around them would fade away, leaving only the two of them suspended in a universe of unspoken emotion. As the night grew darker, the shadows grew longer, and with them, the shadows of doubt and fear. Hiroshi knew that their love was as delicate as the wings of a butterfly. A single wrong move could shatter it into a million unretrievable pieces. He was torn between the life that had been laid out for him and the siren call of Yuko's love. Yuko, too, grappled with the reality of her situation, a love that could never truly be hers, a future that was already written in the stars. They decided to walk along the river's edge, the calming flow of the water offering a semblance of peace amidst their tumultuous thoughts. The air grew colder, and Yuko shivered, her kimono fluttering in the breeze. Hiroshi, ever the gallant gentleman, offered her his silk haori, which she gratefully accepted. As the fabric enveloped her, the scent of sandalwood and ink clung to her, a silent declaration of his presence. "Yuko-san," Hiroshi began, his voice tentative. "I must confess, my thoughts are a tempest tonight." Her heart ached with the weight of his words. And what storm clouds gather in your heart, Hiroshi-sama? He paused, the moon casting a silver glow upon his troubled features. I am bound by duty, by the expectations of my family and the traditions that have shaped my life. Yet, every time I am with you, I feel as though I am seeing the world anew. Yuko looked down at the flowing river, her eyes reflecting the ripples of doubt. Our paths are as different as the sun and the moon. Can love truly bridge the gap between us? I do not know, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. But I am willing to try, if you are. Their conversation grew more earnest as they strolled, the only witnesses to their secret rendezvous the willow trees that bent low, whispering secrets of their own. They spoke of dreams and desires, of a world where their love could exist without the constraints of their respective roles. It was a dangerous topic, one that could lead them down a path fraught with scandal and heartache. As they approached a secluded tea-house, its paper walls glowing softly with the warm light within, the sound of laughter and clinking cups drifted out to greet them. Hiroshi led Yuko inside, the scent of roasting tea leaves and incense wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. They sat opposite each other, knees touching beneath the low table, their eyes speaking volumes that their lips dared not utter. The proprietor, an old woman with a knowing smile, served them a steaming cup of matcha. The bitter taste served as a stark reminder of the bitterness that could await them should their love be discovered. Yet, in that moment, all that mattered was the warmth that spread through their bodies, the warmth of the tea, and the warmth of their shared hope. They talked of the world beyond Kyoto, of the vast ocean that stretched to the horizon and the lands that lay beyond the shores of Japan. Yuko spoke of her dreams of seeing the cherry blossoms in full bloom in the imperial gardens of Kyoto, a site reserved for those of higher standing. Hiroshi, in turn, spoke of his longing for adventure, to experience the world beyond the confines of his noble birthright. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of a shuffling footstep outside. Hiroshi's eyes grew wide with alarm, and he placed a gentle finger upon Yuko's lips. They waited, hearts pounding in unison, as the footsteps grew louder, then faded away. It was a stark reminder that their time together was borrowed, a stolen moment in a world that would not understand. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of shared glances and tender smiles, each gesture a silent promise to hold on to their love, no matter the cost. As the night grew old and the first hints of dawn began to paint the sky, they knew that they must part ways. Hiroshi took Yuko's hand in his, the warmth of his touch sending a jolt through her body. "We will find a way," he assured her, his eyes filled with determination. "Our love is not a fleeting affair, like the cherry blossoms. It is a flame that will burn brightly, no matter the storms that may come." Yuko nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I believe you, Hiroshi-sama. I will hold on to this night, this promise, and wait for the day when we can walk together in the light." They stepped out of the tea-house, the cool air a stark contrast to the warmth they had shared within. Hiroshi called for a rickshaw, and as he helped Yuko into the seat, he whispered a promise into her ear. "I will come for you, my love. I will not let you slip away." The rickshaw pulled away, the rhythmic clacking of the wooden wheels echoing through the quiet streets like a solemn farewell. Yuko watched as Hiroshi's figure grew smaller, his silhouette merging with the shadows of the dawn. The promise he had whispered lingered in her ears like the sweetest melody, a secret that only the two of them shared in a world that was anything but kind to star-crossed lovers. Days turned into weeks, and the warmth of spring gave way to the sticky embrace of summer. Yuko's days were filled with the relentless training that came with being a Maiko, her nights with the clandestine meetings with Hiroshi. They had to be careful, for their love was as fragile as the paper lanterns that hung in the alleyways, one gust of wind away from exposure. Their meetings grew more daring as the weeks went by. They would sneak away to the hidden corners of Kyoto's lush gardens, where the whispers of the wind through the bamboo groves became their secret language. They talked of running away, of leaving behind the confines of their lives to start anew in a place where their love could flourish without fear of judgment. One night, as the air was thick with the scent of hydrangeas, Hiroshi brought forth a proposal that took Yuko's breath away. "My love," he began, his voice as steady as the rock garden they sat beside, "I have spoken to my uncle, a man of great influence. He has agreed to help us if we are willing to take a great risk." Yuko's eyes searched his, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. "What risk, Hiroshi-sama?" "We must leave Kyoto," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "We must go to Edo, where my uncle will secure us a new life under new identities. Away from the prying eyes of our families and the rigidness of our roles." The thought of leaving behind her beloved Kyoto, her sisters at the Okiya, and the very essence of who she was, filled Yuko with a profound sadness. Yet, the promise of a life with Hiroshi, a life filled with love and freedom, was a beacon that outshone even the most glorious sunrise over Fushimi Inari. With trembling hands, she took his. "I will go with you, wherever you wish." The plan was set into motion with the precision of a kabuki play. Hiroshi arranged for their escape, forging letters of introduction and procuring travel documents under false names. Yuko packed her few possessions with the care of a mother preparing her child for a long journey. Each step was fraught with tension, for one misstep could shatter their dreams like a dropped teacup on the unforgiving floor of the Okiya. The day of their departure dawned with the same deceptive calmness as the day they had first met. The sun rose high, casting a golden light upon the city, as if bidding them farewell with a knowing smile. Dressed as a commoner, Yuko waited at the appointed place, her heart racing like the hoofs of a wild horse in her chest. Hiroshi arrived in a simple kimono, his eyes searching the crowd until they found hers. He took her hand, and together they disappeared into the bustling streets, weaving through the throngs of people like a pair of fish in a vast, unpredictable river. The journey to Edo was long and arduous, a testament to their love and resolve. They traveled by palanquin, then by boat, and finally by foot, their every step a silent declaration of their determination. They encountered the beauty of Japan's countryside, the majesty of Mount Fuji, and the kindness of strangers who knew nothing of their secret. When they reached the bustling city of Edo, it was like stepping into a different world. The cobbled streets were crowded with samurai and merchants, the air thick with the scent of grilled skewers and ink from the nearby print shops. The towering wooden houses and the grandeur of the castle loomed over them, a stark contrast to the intimate confines of Kyoto. Under the guise of a young couple starting a new life, they found refuge in a small tea house on the outskirts of the city. Hiroshi took up the trade of a scribe, using his knowledge of kanji to forge a new identity, while Yuko learned the art of tea ceremony from a kind old woman who took them under her wing. Life was hard, but it was theirs, and it was filled with love. They worked tirelessly to build a future together, their hearts entwined like the roots of an ancient ginkgo tree. Each day, Yuko served tea with a grace that belied her apprentice days, while Hiroshi's calligraphy grew more elegant with every stroke of his brush. The tea house grew in popularity, a beacon of tranquility in the chaotic city. The seasons turned, and with them, the pages of their love story. Yuko's kimonos grew simpler, her makeup lighter, as she embraced the freedom of being a commoner. Hiroshi's shoulders no longer bore the weight of his family's expectations, and his smile grew genuine. Yet, the specter of their pasts lurked in the shadows, a silent reminder of the world they had left behind. One evening, as the maple leaves danced in the autumn breeze, a letter arrived. It bore the crest of Hiroshi's family, a crimson seal that seemed to burn with accusation. He broke it open with trembling hands, the kanji spilling forth like drops of ink on the paper-thin fabric of their new life. His family had discovered their disappearance, and the ripples of their scandal had reached even the distant shores of Edo. Yuko watched as the color drained from Hiroshi's face. The letter spoke of anger, of dishonor, and of a demand for his return. The price of their love was higher than they had ever imagined, his family's disownment, her ostracism from the geisha world she knew. Yet, there was also a glimmer of hope. His uncle had intervened, offering them a single chance to make amends. The decision was a heavy one, laden with the weight of their love and the fear of losing everything they had built. After much deliberation, they chose to return to Kyoto, to face the consequences of their actions and to plead for understanding. The journey back was a silent pilgrimage, each step a prayer for forgiveness and acceptance. The air grew cooler, the scent of sakura blossoms replaced by the crispness of autumn leaves. Kyoto welcomed them with open arms, but the whispers of their scandal had spread like wildfire, scorching the very ground they walked upon. Upon their arrival, they were greeted by a procession of their family's retainers, their faces stern and unyielding. They were led to the grand estate of Hiroshi's family, where the air was thick with tension and the silence spoke louder than any words. In the opulent drawing room, they knelt before the stern faces of Hiroshi's parents. His mother's eyes were filled with a sadness that spoke of lost dreams, while his father's were as cold as the steel of a sword. The room was a tableau of unspoken accusations and silent pleas. Hiroshi spoke first, his voice strong and unwavering. I come before you with a heavy heart, for I have failed in my duty as a son. I ask for your forgiveness and for the chance to right my wrongs. Yuko followed suit, her words a delicate dance of apology and hope. I, too, seek your understanding. I am but a Maiko, a blossom in the wind, who has found her way to a love that defies the very essence of our world. I ask that you see the purity of our hearts. The silence that followed was a palpable entity, a living thing that breathed in the space between them. And then, in a moment that seemed to stretch for an eternity, Hiroshi's mother spoke. Your love is a rebellion, a flame that burns against the very fabric of our traditions. Yet, I see in your eyes a bond that is as unbreakable as the cords of fate that bind us all. Her words hung in the air, a soft promise of something other than rejection. Hiroshi's father, a man of few words and less emotion, merely nodded in assent. The tension in the room dissipated like mist in the morning sun, leaving a cautious hope in its wake. The path ahead was not an easy one. Hiroshi's family agreed to let them live together under the condition that they upheld their duties to the best of their abilities. For Hiroshi, this meant taking over the family's failing silk business and restoring its honor. For Yuko, it meant returning to the Okiya to complete her training and fulfill her obligations as a geisha. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Hiroshi threw himself into his new role with a fervor that surprised even himself. The silkworms, the looms, and the intricate patterns of the kimonos became his new canvas, and he painted upon it with the brush of his newfound purpose. Yuko, too, found solace in her work, the graceful movements of the dance and the soothing strums of the shamisen offering a respite from the tumultuous emotions that stirred within her. Their meetings grew less frequent, stolen moments in the early morning before the city awoke or in the twilight as the paper lanterns began to glow. Yet, the distance between them did not diminish the love that burned in their hearts. Each encounter was like a drop of water in the desert, sustaining them through the trials of their separate lives. As the seasons passed, Yuko blossomed into a full-fledged geisha, her beauty and talents captivating the hearts of many. Her name, now Mitsuko, was whispered in the tea-houses and theaters, a symbol of the enduring spirit of love in a world that often sought to suppress it. Hiroshi watched her from afar, his pride swelling like the petals of a lotus in a pond, even as his heart ached for the days when they had been free to love without the burden of their roles. One evening, as the first snowflakes of winter kissed the ground, Yuko received a summons from a wealthy patron, a man of great power and influence. His request was simple: entertain him at his private residence. The price for her presence was more than generous, enough to save the silk business from its precarious financial situation. Yet, the cost to her heart was immeasurable. Yuko donned her most exquisite kimono, her eyes reflecting the sadness that clung to her like the chilly air. She painted her face with the precision of a master artist, each stroke a silent goodbye to the girl she had once been. As she stepped into the palanquin that awaited her, she felt the weight of her fate pressing down upon her, a heavy snow that threatened to bury her love beneath its cold embrace. The patron's mansion was a testament to opulence, its walls adorned with gold leaf and the finest silk tapestries. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the murmur of hushed conversations. Yuko moved through the corridors with the grace of a gazelle, her heart pounding in her chest like a taiko drum. The evening began with the customary dance and music, the air charged with an unspoken tension that only she and Hiroshi's uncle, who had arranged the meeting, could feel. As the night progressed, the patron's attentions grew more insistent, his eyes lingering on her in a way that made her skin crawl. Yet, she performed her duties with the poise of a seasoned geisha, her smile never wavering. In the quiet moments between entertainments, she found herself seated beside Hiroshi's uncle. He spoke in hushed tones of a future where their love could be open and accepted, a future where Hiroshi could leave his family's shadow and stand in the sun with her. The temptation was sweet, like the nectar of a ripe peach, but it was laced with the bitter taste of obligation and sacrifice. As the night grew late, the patron made his intentions clear. He wished to make Yuko his personal geisha, to possess her talents and her beauty exclusively. The price was one that Hiroshi's family could never match, and the implications of such an arrangement were not lost on her. Her heart felt as though it were being torn in two, the love she had for Hiroshi and the duty she owed to her own family and the Okiya. Yuko excused herself, her heart racing with the tumult of her thoughts. In the quiet solitude of the garden, she found Hiroshi waiting for her, his eyes filled with a love that transcended the cold, unfeeling world around them.